We are talking about the DAS Pass, also known as the DAS Pass at Disneyland, and whether or not Tony from Beautiful Tomorrow abused the system or not. All that and more today on the Blind Jedi Podcast. Welcome back to another Blind Jedi podcast. I'm Jason Smith, aka The Blind Jedi, and today we got an interesting one for you. It's going to be all about Disneyland, and I need to set some disclaimers right away. First and foremost, there's a lot of talk right now in some circles, not all circles, of whether or not streaming is allowed in Disneyland or vlogging, if you will, is allowed in Disneyland. Now, I've done a couple of vlogs in Disneyland. I unfortunately don't live as close to Disneyland as I probably would like to, but I have done some videos and made some content at Disneyland. Now, I've been for years following a lot of vloggers, a lot of streamers, and just trying to get as close to Disney as I can since I can't be in the parks. And I can tell you first and foremost that the parks allow it. In fact, in some cases, the parks encourage it, especially if you're following the rules and you're not abusing the system. Now, there's a big misconception out there of what abuse is to that system, meaning, are you asking for money from your stream? Is that against Disneyland policy? No, it's not. The policies that are showing up on some of these videos, these haters, if you will, against people that vlog or do live streams at Disneyland, are taking those out of context. The context is not so much whether they do it on their stream. They have to follow the rules. They can't be evasive on people. And for the most part, most people that I watch do not do so. There has been some exceptions to that rule, and we'll get into that at some other point. But today I'm really here to defend somebody who is accused of abusing the DAS Pass, the DAS system, also known as the Disability Access System at Disneyland. This pass is used for people with disabilities to have access without having to wait in line. Now that has always been another disclaimer, right? That's always been misunderstood as, well, you get this pass and you could just skip the line. That is not the case. There's return times. You have to wait whatever the line is when you access the pass. So if you have a DAS pass, you want to ride Peter Pan. Peter Pan is 60 minutes long. You hit the button. You have to wait 60 minutes from that time for that pass to be active in order for you to get on the ride through the exit. It's not a get out of line free card and just go right up to the front and ride the ride. That is not how it works. Also, be assured, Disneyland does not ask you what your specific disability is. They'll ask you certain questions to identify what your needs would be not to be in those lines. That's different for everybody. Disability itself is a large spectrum, okay? Obviously, I'm blind. I'm legally blind, but I do have some usable vision, okay? But blindness is a spectrum. Disability is a spectrum. There is tons, we're talking tons of different types of disabilities that exist in our world today. And some of those are justifiable for this pass. Some are not. Some may be just for a few passes in the day, so they could have just a few rides that are accessible before they leave the park. Again, all of it varies. I do not work for Disney. I do not, in any means, an expert on how they determine what you need versus what other people need. But be assured that Disney does a really, really diligent job of making sure that nobody is abusing this system. Which brings me to Tony, okay? There was a video that was placed out there saying that Tony was abusing and not being 100% legit when it was coming to using this pass. The video starts off with him walking with someone by the name of Jennifer, and she is in an ECV mobile device, meaning it's an electronic scooter, if you will. You probably see them around the parks all the time. Another disclaimer, people think if you have this scooter, you automatically qualify for the DAS pass, which is also another misconception because that is not the case. You can get a scooter, anybody could ride one if you want to be lazy and not walk the park, or maybe you have a small foot injury, but it does not allow you access to, especially in Disneyland, California, because most of their rides are accessible and you could take those scooters in the line. So it doesn't automatically qualify you to do so. And I will first admit 100%, it does look like in the video that she is the one that has the DAS pass. Also in the video, it looks like she is not disabled. So the misconception out there right now is that Tony was with this girl that was faking an injury, that was using the DAS pass and jumping lines and just having a good old time. And that wasn't the case. The first reaction for most people who suffer from disabilities, who see things like this, usually is not very, very well taken in, right? A lot of people with disabilities are going to get angry at this right away. They're going to say, hey, it's because I'll be the first to tell you, I'm one of them, right? I suffer from legal blindness. I also have a few other disabilities that hinder me from standing in long lines at times. I try to use mine wisely. I cannot speak for everybody, but it also gives me great anxiety and fear when I do use the pass. So it's like a catch-22, a damned if I do and damned if I don't type situation, and it's very, very tough to navigate that emotionally. So if I think or see if someone is misusing this, or they get caught in a situation where the idea is that they're not using it correctly and taking advantage of it, yeah, it would make me mad as well. That's everybody's first reaction, especially if you suffer from a disability or you have or know somebody who does. Now, I also have 2 children who have disabilities, significant disabilities, autism, and Dandy Walker syndrome. So I do understand the feelings of a parent from a parent perspective as well, how this could make someone angry. But we tend to jump straight to the conclusion that there's being ill will being taken place, or something bad is happening and we should attack this person. And Tony has been pretty much slandered over the last week and a half or so prior to me making this podcast, and it's unjustifiable. I even said on that video, when I wrote in the description saying, first of all, Tony needs to apologize, because Tony did make a statement that was a bit insensitive. Now, this happens across the board. I see it all the time, even at where I work at Valley Center for the Blind. A lot of times insensitive things are said. That doesn't mean that these people do not care about the disabled community, or they did it deliberately to hurt somebody or make fun of a certain situation. By all means, that's usually not the case. Usually it's just something that is not thought through, because they're not used to the disability itself, or some of the word, what's okay, what's not okay. And even that's a gray area. All right. So Tony did mention in that he was getting the VIP treatment. And yes, that could be taken as an insensitive statement. But once you actually get to know Tony, talk to Tony, watch a lot of his content, you will see that Tony's all about positivity, making change in people's lives. By all means, this guy does not show any type of remorse or attitude towards anybody with disability, or show any type of negativity of any sort in his videos. So, the point that I want to make clear here and specify is Tony is a good person. Tony is a good dude. He did not mean to be insensitive when he said, I'm getting the VIP treatment. Now, above and beyond that, I want to talk about exactly what transpired with this DAS pass and Tony. All right, because like I said, the misconception was that it was Jennifer in the scooter that had the DAS pass. And if you watch the clip, it shows Tony riding the scooter into the queue. I believe it was Radiator Springs. The husband scans his phone, and Tony rides in, and that's where Tony makes the insensitive comment. Like, I'm going to call it what it is, even though that Tony didn't mean it to be insensitive, okay? And he's apologized for it. You can go to his channel and look at the post. He also describes everything that I'm going to cover right now very vaguely. So, from my perspective, vaguely, because I want to respect the person with a disability as well. But you watch him go in the video, the person tries to claim that Tony, the husband just let Tony in, and that the person with the pass is supposed to be on the ride. I think at that point, everybody just shuts everything off. They're not paying attention to the video. They're not listening to what Tony's saying, because there is a gentleman in front of Tony that was on the ride. Now, you could have up to 6 people on your pass, your disability pass, to ride these rides, up to 6 people, okay? Not all people have to be present on the ride, just the person that has the disability, okay? And Tony mentions it in his statement, who the person was, which he shouldn't have to, and we'll get into that in a second as well, but he mentions it in his apology post, who the person was in the disability. He mentions it in the video. The person is in front of him. So the dad scanning the pass was just allowing those 2 to ride the ride, which is perfectly legal, perfectly acceptable, If you have a DAS pass or if you use it in the past, when you click on it, not everybody has to get on the ride. It just, if that person with a disability is getting on the ride, any one of those other people can go on with them, which Tony did. Now, this person with a disability is a minor. That's why I'm being very vague about it. And again, that's a whole nother issue, okay? So there's two things that happen at Disneyland. Number one, through HIPAA law, and I'm sure all of you that ever gone to a doctor's appointment or been in the hospital understands what the HIPAA law is. We do not have to disclose what our disabilities are. Number one, it's even double down when it comes to a minor. And Tony and the mom decided not to put that in the video and talk about the one that had the disability, which happened to be his 13th birthday, all right? And they were supporters of the show, and Tony was asked to celebrate the boy's birthday with them. So that's enough said for me, okay? Right then and there, across the board, Tony is legit. Outside of the comment, yes, that could be taken to be insensitive, but again, check the character of the person, and you tell me whether or not he meant that to be insensitive. Nope, he did not. It was not an insensitive comment in that way. Could he use better wording? Sure. I have personally reached out to Tony. Tony has responded back briefly. He says he would like to get a hold of me. I would like to do a sit down with Tony, actually in the park. I would actually like just to kind of go over some of the disabilities, do's and don'ts, just to kind of take the opportunity to educate. Not necessarily Tony, because I do believe Tony gets it, but an opportunity to let everybody know and educate everybody, not only just on the parameters of the pass itself, but just from a disability standpoint, how we need to approach other people in the park, whether or not you believe that they are disabled or not, because that is the misclaimer right here, right now. Like I said, it's very simple for somebody with a disability to overreact instantly. I always teach in my advocacy that we need to be patient, gather all the facts, get all the information before you go out and start attacking anybody on any type of, I've had some really ignorant, insensitive comments made to me. I'll share one with you. I've shared it on this channel before. We kind of laughed about it and kind of played it off at one point. But it was the Christmas season. We ordered some Christmas cards. My wife ordered some Christmas cards from an Office Depot. We went to go pick them up. That day, I had my mobility cane with me in the car. But at that moment, I was like, you know what? It's the golden hour. There's not too many shadows. I'm just going to not bring my cane in. All right. So I did not bring my cane. So there was no identification whether or not I was a disabled person or I had a visual impairment, or no one understood. No one, you look at me, you wouldn't know. We walk up to the counter. The guy places the Christmas cards on the counter. I proceed to pick them up. Now, in order for me to see anything on a piece of paper, let me see if I have anything close by here on my desk. I'll just use this card, for example. I mean, the writing's even too small for me to see this close, but when I hold things up, I have to really get it really close up to my face and my eye. Just if it's large enough print or if it's a picture, I may or may not be able to focus in on what's on that particular piece of paper, or in this case, what was on the Christmas card. So I'm holding it very close to my face, trying to see if I can make out and see how nice the picture came out. The gentleman on the register proceeds to tell me, "Oh, do they smell good too?" I instantly clenched my fist. I was ready to get fired up, but I calmed down. I briefly told him that I had a visual impairment and left it at that. I knew the wife was concerned that I might fly out the handle and say something because it was insensitive. It was a very ignorant comment, regardless whether or not he knew I had one or not. I mean, who else would be smelling, right, a Christmas card like that? I mean, honestly. But anyway, neither here nor there, but I calmed down, and I had to realize two things. Obviously, this person needs to be educated on what legal blindness is, what blindness is in general, number one. Number two, it's an education moment for me of why it's important that I always have my mobility cane on me, whether or not I need it at that moment or not, because my vision can be deceiving. I could look to the normal eye as someone that has it all put together. I could walk a straight line. I could look fine. But the reality is I can only see a few feet in front of me. So if I bump into somebody, if I trip, or if I knock somebody, or maybe they're holding a drink, and I'm not holding that mobility cane, I mean, I could put myself in a really scary and dangerous situation. I should be notifying the people around me that I do have a visual impairment. In my case, I am considered legally blind. Legally blind in the United States is a measurable IQ of 2200 or worse in your good eye. Now, I passed 2200 20 plus years ago, approaching 30 at this point. My vision at this point is probably somewhere along the lines of 2600 and worse, which means my vision is extremely blurry. Not that I need to explain, I'm just trying to set the stage here of sometimes disabilities can be deceiving. You could look at one person, think they're not disabled, and say, you're abusing a pass or you're abusing the system, and that's not the case. Even in the case of Jennifer, right? You see it in the video, she's in an ECV cart. She gets out, she's going to walk around, stretch her legs, she lets Tony ride it. Now, it's already been put out there that she's not the one with the past. That doesn't mean she's not does not have some sort of disability. Her disability could range from anything from autoimmune disorders where she gets really fatigued. She could have MS, beginning stages of MS. We don't know. We don't know. Just because she can get out of the cart and walk, and that doesn't mean she didn't need the cart or she should be driving the cart all the time. But in this particular case, it was her son that had the disability. But again, even attacking Jennifer at that moment, saying that she was faking it, is a false statement in itself. You do not know that. She does not need to tell you that she has a disability or not, nor is it Tony's responsibility to let you know that or not. That's for Disney to worry about. And let me tell you something. Disney knows who's vlogging in their parks. I guarantee you 100% Disney know who Tony is. Tony's been doing it for years. He has over 21,000 subscribers. Disney knows Tony. And I guarantee you, whether or not they talk to Tony or not, they watched the video, they probably read the statement. It is not that hard to figure out that everything was done legitly that night. Tony is not a guy that's trying to disrespect the park. He's not trying to disrespect the Disney community. In fact, he works really hard to uphold not only the Disneyland rules and regulations, but again, he preaches positivity, change. He wants to motivate people to be better. All right. So again, everybody needs to lay off Tony. Tony did not do anything wrong. Tony did not abuse the DAS pass. Tony was actually doing a disabled boy a favor by spending the day with him in Disneyland for his birthday. Something that is not mentioned enough, not talked about enough as to show the character of Tony, right? They just want to talk about, oh no, he was begging for money. Hey, get over it. It's YouTube. It doesn't matter what kind of content you make. As long as you stay in the parameters of where you're at, you're entitled to cash donations, Patreons, super chats. It does not matter. People need to get off this bandwagon, get off the idea that this is some sort of illegal, false fallacy. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it needs to stop. The hate needs to stop. If you don't like the content being videoed or live streamed in the park, don't watch the channel. If there's anything that's going on that is not under the Disney umbrella, Disney will kick them out of the park permanently. They will ban them from the park. Just ask Adam the Woo. And Adam did something very innocently. Very, very innocently. So I don't want to hear, all right, that Disney doesn't take these things seriously. Sometimes maybe too seriously. Adam should not even have been banned from the park, in my opinion. And it was a long time ago. They allowed him back in. Now he's dealing with some Universal thing. Again, parameters unknown. That's between Adam and his peeps in the parks. You know, Adam is a stand-up dude. If you watch Adam the Woo, you know who I'm talking about, and you know what kind of person he is. And nobody really gives Adam a lot of grief, even about him being banned from these parks, because they know and Adam is a very genuine person. Now, I encourage you to go watch Beautiful Tomorrow, and you tell me whether or not Tony is genuine or not. I mean, it didn't take me long to figure that out. Not at all. Tony's extremely genuine, very stand-up guy, loves Disney, loves the park, seems to be a great father and husband. Leave him alone. Stop slandering the man's name. Okay? We all could use a dose of education when it comes to disability. I want to provide that for not only my disability listeners, but maybe the hopefully, eventually, I'm going to be in the parks more. Kenny and I are planning to jump into Universal. We're waiting for Disneyland to open up passes again. We'll be in Knott's. We plan on doing a lot of theme park content, not just going up to Yosemite and doing adventure. I got some videos coming out about adaptive sport camp that I was able to attend a couple of times this summer. So we do a lot of different things on this channel, but the number one thing is to educate, advocate, motivate, and inspire everyone with a disability to live their best life. But not only that, but just for everybody in general. Because disabilities, man, you could be suffering through depression, some type of sorrow in your life. Maybe you're down on your luck, you lost your job. I'm just here to inspire you to just keep moving forward, no matter what your struggle is in life. I sense that from Tony too. And I think that's why I'm taking this so personal, outside of the fact that, again, jumping way too fast on whether or not this guy was being disrespectful with people with disabilities, which he was not. In fact, he's protecting a minor. And the more and more that he gets attacked, more and more videos have to come out like this where we mention the fact that it was a minor that had the disability. And all of a sudden people think that Tony needs to come up and show some evidence to this. The evidence is in the video. Go watch the video. Don't go watch the slander video. Go watch the live stream itself. And you will see the person with the pass that he mentions the name. Like, I'm not even going to take it that far anymore. It's ridiculous. The bottom line is, when it comes to educating and advocating, our personality, the way that we handle it, the way that we handle ourselves, especially if you suffer with a disability, don't cross that line of slander. Do it with respect. Not everybody's going to understand you, your disability, or anybody else's. And most of the people that I've seen slandering comments and slandering in that video talk about their own personal disabilities. How would you feel if your minor kid had a disability and people were attacking wrongfully, thinking that they're privileged or entitled because they're disabled, that this person's abusing the past, when this man who has a channel, who's an influencer, who is a good person that only promotes positivity, is actually making this person with a disability, he's making their day, he's making their birthday special. I mean, you guys, we all have to just hit the brakes, gather the information, only focus on the facts. The facts are, you're allowed to vlog in the parks, you're allowed to live stream in the parks. Tony did not break any rules. You're allowed to go with somebody who has a disability to the park and enjoy the park with them if you will, which in this case, they did. It's not up to us to identify whether the boy or the mom or the dad or Tony himself has a disability that allows him to use that pass. That's Disney's discretion. Disney does a very good job. Trust me, I talk to them all the time when I go to the parks. It's not just something you can walk up there and say you got nosebleeds and they just hand it to anybody. They take it very seriously. So, again, it needs to be dropped. If anybody has any questions, please comment down below. I would love to answer it. I do this for a living. I help advocate and educate and motivate and inspire blind people, people with vision loss, to go out, to accomplish things they normally wouldn't do, and help them find ways to do it. Don't forget to check out our video about Yosemite. We have a part 2 that's coming out. We went back up to Yosemite for a second time. I'm currently working on that video, putting that video together. You're not going to want to miss it. Very educational. We made some strides for the disabled, not only in Yosemite Park, we made strides in national parks across the United States. So please do not hesitate to click that video when it comes out. The Yosemite Part 2 video is going to be fantastic. We also got another trip coming up. I will announce that later when all the details are finalized. But just throw it out there right now. We'll be in a theme park, so just be prepared for that. Also, we'll have a video be dropping about the adaptive sports program here in the Central California, up at Shaver Lake, California, where I was able to go to 2 camps and take people that are suffering from sight loss up there. And man, I want to talk about some inspiring content. You're not going to want to miss that video. But until next time, you take care of yourself and each other. And remember, stay independently blind.